Welcome back to the App Podcast, the podcast where we break down the biggest trends in marketing, branding, and creativity so you don't have to pretend that you read the industry report your boss sent you. Today, we're diving into two massive shifts happening in marketing right now. First, why brands are ghosting big agencies and swiping right on independent creative consultants instead. And second, whether immersive brand experiences are the next big thing or just another overpriced excuse to get people to take Instagram photos. And to help us pack all of this, we've got Naya, creative consultant with an insane track record in immersive experiences in theater. She's worked with some of the biggest names in entertainment from Pasadena Playhouse to Theater Mogul, Sunny Spot Productions, Delusion LA, Speakeasy Society. I could go on all day long. She's also the founder of Unusual Creative. Sorry, she's also the founder of Unusual Creative, a consultancy that helps brands and businesses scale their ideas through creative strategy and project development. Plus, she's also been a featured speaker at South by Southwest, IAAPA, and the Themed Entertainment Association. So she knows her stuff when it comes to marketing that actually moves people. Naya, welcome to the show. Before we get into it, I have to ask, what's the wildest or weirdest creative project you've ever been a part of that made you go like, how the hell did I end up here?
Whoa, what a pleasure and what a great question to start. Okay, so I worked on this fantastic project called Safe House 77 in LA. And the premise was, and shout out to I would just say shout out to all the audience members that just trusted us. But we had this amazing setup in a house
Yeah,
in Los Feliz Echo Park area. And we invited patrons that purchased a ticket to come to this house and sort of be part of this house party. There were about, I don't know, 7 to 10 actors and about the same audience members. And after about a 2.5 hour show, you were inducted into the CIA. And the entire time, people were sort of pulling you into different rooms to see what skills you had that they could use for the next mission.
yeah.
The takeaways from that experience and just that project overall was next level. And I learned a lot.
Nice. So, before we get into our first topic, for like a Joe Schmo out there, what is a creative consultant?
A creative consultant, in my mind, or at least for my expertise, I work with brands and clients to frame out or further develop their creative strategy or to help them with project planning, either for an existing idea or for an idea that they're looking to scale and re release. So, really,
Nice.
we work closely on strategy, plans, and any sort of brand exposure, brand development. That's usually our expertise.
Yeah, so let's talk about this like major shift in how brands are approaching creativity. So a few years ago, if you wanted to launch a campaign, you had two choices. You either like hire a massive agency that would charge you the price of a small island, or try pull something off in-house with super limited resources. But now, brands are bypassing agencies and hiring independent consultants like you, niche creatives, and even influencers to shape their marketing. So you work directly with brands. Why do you think this shift is happening?
I mean, I've just noticed that a lot of brands are interested in diversifying their strategy, doing something new and different. Independent creative consultants usually have the same or similar industry knowledge and expertise, but the process and their bandwidth and their approach is different. Um,
Yeah,
it's exciting, of course, to work with traditional agencies just because they have a different draw and pull. But I think the talent and expertise that I offer and that other creative consultants might offer, it's not bundled to a large team. So you can, really curate the services that you like, and you can sort of have fun with the process. It doesn't have to be cut and paste, maybe like
yeah.
other agencies might be.
That makes so much sense because brands do want like fresh perspectives, but don't want to like they do want fresh perspectives, but they don't want the slow process of a traditional agency. And like, let's be real, some of the most creative work right now isn't coming from agencies. It's more coming from like, I mean, in my For You page anyway, it's like internet culture, meme accounts, and like indie creatives. Like the
Definitely.
examples I can think of are like Mark Jacobs, like they literally hired a TikToker to be a creative consultant instead of like a full in-house agency sort of thing. And
Yeah.
like even like the creative agency Mischief, who've launched like the big red boots. That's all uh that's all agency independent work. So do you think we're gonna see more brands turn to independent creators, or is this just like a current trend or a fad?
I mean, I think it's a trend, but a lasting one. I think it's something that we'll see it shapeshift in a couple of different ways over the next, I don't know, 5, 10 plus years. I also think, with respect to some of the examples that you pulled off, like the cuss collar and some of the things that Mischief has been dropping, I'm just like, this is insane, but also I'm dialed in, right? Like, I don't know much, but I'm still trying to figure out the next drop. I'm still sending to my friends, yo, did you see this last one? And I think that type of energy is super impactful. It's really, from my understanding, what brands are going after. And if you're, I don't know, if you're waiting on approvals for a campaign to be done versus, getting this post out or just doing a drop in the middle of the night and seeing the same engagement, if not more, I don't see why you wouldn't try adding it to your
Yeah,
strategy, or at least
yeah,
considering it.
it's like don't blink and you'll miss it, or like blink and you'll miss it kind of thing. And
Yeah,
especially
or the
with
trend's not funny
yeah,
anymore.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
or
It,
like,
it
yeah,
becomes corny. Yeah, and
exactly.
yeah, let's talk about Mischief real quick because I'm like probably their biggest fanboy in this office. I'm like advocating for them in this office like no other, and no one gets it. They're like still trying to decipher what the MSCHF was for, but um, their their drop model is insane, and it's every 2 week. Do they still drop every 2 weeks? Do you know?
I think so. Don't quote me, but I think so.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, and so every project is so vastly different from the other one that like they're not defined by a specific project. Sure, the Big Red Boots has hit the mainstream, but they're doing so many different things in so many corners of the internet that it's like they've really had their fingers in every internet pie, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And it makes me think as well. I'm so curious about their internal metrics. Like, what are they measuring up? Sort of the success of these drops or the engagement of these drops? Is it different for different ones because they all are across different industries and products?
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, I'm curious. Nothing that they drop ever feels lame or out of pocket. I'm always just like, huh. If
yeah.
nothing else, it's like the head tilt.
Do you have a favorite one that like really stood out to you?
I really liked the cuss collar, and I really liked, what was the make yourself a YouTube, or make yourself a, dang, now I'm blanking on it. But it was something where you could basically like become a YouTube something inside of a screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it had like a kaleidoscope effect to it. Anyways, that one was
Oh, like a
really
virtual YouTuber thing. I feel like I've heard
yes,
of it.
yes, yes,
Yeah, yeah,
yes.
yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, that's cool. I really like the one where they did for the it was I think it was like 3 4 years ago. It was for the 2024 presidential election where they'd buy like domain websites of like potential candidates that they thought would be like they bought like the Rock domain websites. They bought like Michelle Obama domain websites, and they're like, oh, you could buy a share for like $1, and if it gets sold to the actual presidential candidate, then you could get such a big return on investment. But if you lose it, it's still like $1 or like five or whatever the like tiny number
the
was.
value of it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
See,
it's just
that to me is just clever. Yeah, it speaks to
no
the
one's thinking
times.
of that, and like yeah, I would love to see what like a planning or like a brainstorm session is. I'd love to be like a fly on the wall.
Same.
Yeah.
Just to take
Okay.
notes.
So brands are redefining who they work with, but they're also rethinking how they connect with audiences. This brings us to our second big topic, the rise of immersive brand experiences. So, in the past few years, it feels like every brand wants to be more than a product or service. They want to be an experience. Have you felt that shift? And was there a specific time or a specific campaign that made you go like, "Oh, there's this rise is really happening right now"?
Yes, I feel the shift. I think the shift is here to stay. Um, I'm thinking on if there, I mean, there are several. What's interesting is I haven't been to a ton of them.
Okay.
But like I've worked with a company that did a New Balance promotion, and we were able to collaborate with them and really bring this like 80s vibe out with this particular model that had that type of aesthetic to it. And yeah, I just feel like opportunities like that are really crossing over into industries. I think it used to be really focused on entertainment for a while. Now we're getting into
Yeah,
retail. IKEA, they have their AR or mixed reality app where
yeah,
you can place furniture in your home, and then Nike. So yeah, there are so many different brands that are really understanding the value of allowing a customer to engage with products on their own using different types of medias. I think that's exciting. And then in the entertainment world, one that really stood out to me was the movie Ma, which had Octavia Spencer as the lead in it. That horror movie that I thought was great. But the I remember the production company did a huge activation for it, and one of the main story moments is all of the younger high school kids are hanging out at Octavia's house in the basement.
yeah,
And it's just like a creepy moment that is where the activation popped off. And in my mind,
yeah,
I'm like, imagine seeing that before or even after seeing the movie and just like all the extra storytelling that you can do with that. So, yeah, I do
yeah,
think it's here to stay. And moments like that are
yeah.
getting bigger and bigger.
To me, it feels like the company or like whoever is behind it is like almost it's almost like the equivalent of like an artist going on tour. And so it's not like really a press run, but it's like, oh, we've got this like live experience activation style event that's happening here, and everybody in that town is gonna be talking about it, and the optics on social media is just you can't avoid it kind of thing. If it's especially if it's in the middle of like a metropolitan city or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is and that word of mouth impact, momentum, marketing is really hard to get when the market is so saturated. There's so much content. Everybody has an Instagram or a Snapchat or all a Blue Sky, all the platforms that are out there. But if you're trying to pierce through the noise and like make memories, make people spend their dollars on something, you're gonna have to tap into the emotions. And so I think that's
yeah,
how this type of art form leads into that.
yeah.
Leans into
And I
that.
think,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you could expand on this, but I think there's like a weird shift where like people like the tide has swung the other way where like we're now like way too chronically online that we're like, okay, no, let me join that run club, let me go to this little thing that like is it documented online, let me go to this like live blind dating, or like there's so much live stuff that's going on that isn't necessarily filmed, or like it isn't necessarily produced for the sake of going on social media by the
Right.
by the people. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's just yeah, I mean we we've had this thing happen where like from the company that we work for, we've launched like a full-on blind dating show, and like the impact of having people in your face telling, "Oh, this is so cool. We should do it again. When's the next one?" Blah blah blah. It's so much more rewarding than like a positive comment. That's not to say like a
Yeah,
positive comment isn't nice, but like that in-person interaction is just so much more memorable.
it really is. And it also creates that sort of like, oh, I wish you could have seen this one thing, like the FOMO or just like I couldn't even explain it to you. That's how cool this thing was.
Yeah,
I think that's like such a win when you achieve that, and immersive is just a vehicle to make that happen. And I feel like because brands are starting to catch on, the budgets are there. People can really
yeah,
get creative with it. Um, they can make some bold moves. You can start to bring the gaming aspect into it because I think the next iteration of this is really going deeper into gaming. But um, yeah, it's just been exciting to witness, especially this
yeah.
last 5 years.
I'm just gonna spit out some of the ones that like really come to mind when we're on this topic. So like one of the bigger ones was like Travis Scott's like live virtual event in Fortnite, where he had like a full-on concert that's happening live at the same time in Fortnite, which was like insane to me. Uh, Another one is like Nike. They had like an AR treasure hunt app activation thing for a while, where like
Right.
it was like Pokemon Go but for Nike shoes, and that to me was just like that's so smart because you can get like a discount the more you get like these like little tokens thing across the city. And then one of
Oh, I didn't
the
know that's what the payoff was.
yeah,
That you get the discounts. Okay, that's great. See, that's a good marketing
yeah.
tool too.
I think
Yeah.
it was a thing. I think it was something to do with NFTs a little bit, but I tried to like when those three letters happen, I just like zone out. So I like sure it's discount. I'll
Might have been NFTs, but I love that. That's
yeah.
hilarious.
And then another one was Stranger Things. They had like actual haunted houses, I think, in America at some point, where like with the launch
Yes.
of like season three. That was
Yeah.
so cool.
And the thing is, haunted houses go off. Like it's especially moving from LA. It was such a scene. I feel like every year it was always bigger than the last.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, when haunted houses do well here, they really do bring in a crowd.
yeah. Do you have a specific project that like you would put as the front runner or like the face of this type of live experiences? Is there a perfect one so far?
Ooh. I mean, let's assume there isn't.
Yeah,
Let's assume there isn't. I have worked with some folks that have that has been the North Star or the aim, and they've gotten quite close.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I guess some projects that come to mind. I was able to work with Speakeasy Society on a great show that they had called the Kansas Collection. Their work is super theater focused.
yeah,
And you really, as an audience member, you're really getting an experience that's guided through usually a unique venue for the story. So I was able to work with them on bringing that to life a couple of years ago. I also recently worked with Meow Wolf um, on their Convergence Station exhibition, as well as the Real Unreal exhibition in Texas, and then the mobile app. Um, and then honestly, I when I was working on Carrie the Musical, which was um, presented as an immersive experience. It was still theatrical in some of the format, but I feel like that was an example of ways to still keep both worlds intact, if you will. Like there were
yeah,
elements of it that it was immersive, but the folks that are used to having, seat C8 in the orchestra, they still were able to have
yeah,
their experience and fun. And yeah, to see buckets of blood get dropped on this fantastic actress night after night, and like people in the front audience, like, having an
yeah,
actual loud like reaction, that was always just exciting. Just exciting to see and witness.
yeah.
So yeah, those are some that come to mind.
Can I ask, as somebody that has worked on theaters for a while, how do you feel about the Sphere in Las Vegas?
I think the last time I went was maybe a year and a half ago, so it might have changed a bit, but I think it is an interesting addition to the city.
Yeah,
Because as somebody that doesn't live there, for me, it's a bit mesmerizing, but I can see how over time I would just forget about it.
yeah,
So every time I come there, it's like, ooh, there's the thing. And then when I leave, it's not that it's having an impact when I leave, but I'm still wowed when I see it. I guess I'm more curious how folks there are enjoying it or not enjoying
yeah,
it, or what their engagement level with it is. I see how a lot of the ads that are, or I'll say some of the brand opportunities that are being
yeah,
showcased there are at least part of the draw, or at least part of like what you can bet on seeing there.
yeah,
Um, I wonder if there's a way to be more creative with that. I think
yeah.
that's my
Because
only. It feels like we stopped at step one, and maybe there's something else to
yeah,
consider.
yeah, because yeah, that's kind of my like not to just like hop on whatever you're thinking, but I am kind of in that same vein that it's like it was cool when it first launched and like the first couple campaigns or like first couple videos that I had played on it were looked so cool. But I feel like it's slowly I don't want to say being forgotten about like internationally, but like the last like major event that was internationally was the UFC event that happened there, I think a couple months ago.
Okay.
And I'd be curious for it to be like I'd really hate for it to turn into another billboard, is basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And I think
It'd
the
be real
difference
sad.
is immersive experiences, ideally, in my opinion, you're delivering a story. Like you're telling something about the brand's origin, you're telling something about why this product matters. whatever it is, you're trying to get a person to understand why this thing is a thing and why the
Yeah,
brand is even presenting it to you. So it when it turns into a billboard or an ad or just like a moving digital thing, um, I do think that's when I don't know that you can call that immersive anymore. I'm not the
yeah,
judge of that, but that's where for me the line gets a bit like, okay, it's digital
yeah,
marketing. I don't know about immersive marketing. So
yeah.
yeah.
On that though, what do you think truly separates an immersive experience that actually resonates from something that's just like a flashy stunt?
I would say anytime an activation is focused on photo ops, like hyper focused on it, it's likely giving stunt. Like it's likely just, where there are some projects where that is the goal, and that is totally fine. I think
Yeah,
that is different than an activation being effective. I also think, similar to a callback from before, like when you create that energy where somebody's like, "Oh, did you see this thing?" and they have to like pull out their phone and show you, or they have to send you the link. That to me is you have made an impact. You've made enough of an impact that they have to share it with their friends or post it.
yeah,
And I also just think in whenever you can tap into um, people's emotions and whatever trend is current at the time, like when you can really make those two meet,
yeah,
um, and then somehow also tie it into the brand, those are sort of the 3 points of engagement that I think make any of those viral moments sort of pop off a little
yeah.
bit.
Yeah, that's a great take because I feel like some brands think just like adding, like sprinkling a couple interactive elements into something actually makes it immersive when that's really not the case. Uh, and I mean, obviously, it all goes back to like storytelling. I think like the best experiences always tell a story, whether that be like an emotive one or like a brand one. It's still like a story. But let's talk scale. Not every brand has the budget for an elaborate activation or pop up. Can smaller brands tap into this trend, or is immersive marketing something just for the big dogs?
That is, I think it's possible. However, small brands would need to invest in it, and they would need to have the budget for it. Because the reality is, creative consultants they have a unique expertise, and when it works, you will see the value of that. Um, and so, I think there are ways that you can build in creative consultant work into your strategy and make it work for you. But for now, it feels like the bigger brands are really they're getting the biggest piece of the pie at the moment. So
Yeah,
hope to see it shift.
yeah. It's always the ones with the deep pockets first, and I mean that's the name of the
Yeah,
game.
it's
Yeah.
it's true.
If there's one trend in marketing right now that you think is completely overhyped, what would that be?
I would say honestly, some of the meme accounts,
Okay.
and I say it because it's not to say that they're not all doing things that are great and entertaining, but I start to get to a point where I'm losing track. And once you can't identify what you saw with the brand that you saw it for, I don't know that the marketing had the full effect. It's not to say it didn't
Yeah.
have an effect, but I don't know that it had the full effect. So that's maybe one trend that I think is we might have reached a limit. We might want to consider a limit.
Yeah.
Um, and
We might need to
then
pivot.
right, exactly. I think some use of AI for full blown like YouTube accounts. I
I
don't
I
understand.
hate that. I hate that too.
I
Yeah.
can't I can't get
Yeah.
behind it. And I'm like, is it me? Sometimes I'll be asking my younger cousins and people, I'm like, y'all, is it because it could just be me, but it's like the voice, everything behind it feels lifeless. But it's also like you're watching something that was created. Like, I don't know. It's an interesting thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it baffles me sometimes when I see like real life humans interacting with that piece of content, like in the comments and stuff.
Oh
Like,
yes,
how did you
yes.
stomach all that 30-minute video and you can just like comment like something productive? I don't know. For me, it's like actual background noise. Like you can put it on when like you want to listen to something, but you're really not paying attention. You just need something in your ear.
And then an hour goes by and you couldn't even tell anybody what you just heard. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, Naya, one last question. For anybody watching this conversation, anybody that's wanted to get into the space that you're in, um, what is one piece of advice you'd give to your younger self?
A piece of advice that I would give to my younger self is lean into your weird. I find that
Okay.
like the things that I bring to the table that nobody else brings are the things that help me stand out in a good way. And even in times that it's not in a good way, it still has worked out in my favor. So, yeah, just accept your weird and lean into it.
Yeah, I definitely resonate with that because I've had a lot of conversations, especially recently, like earlier this year, where like people are uh, like people are now being big advocates for like being yourself almost unapologetically. That it's like you don't want to have that like regret of like when 10 years pass, you're like, oh, I wish I embraced that part of me a little bit more. So, well said.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very good. Naya, this has been a dope conversation. Where can people find you and learn more about Unusual Creatives?
Thank you for your time. This was a great, great treat. You can find more about me. My name is Niyia Mack. My company is Unusual Creative. We have a podcast as well called the Unusual Creative Podcast.
Nice.
You can listen to that podcast on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. We're also on Instagram at the Unusual Creative, and you can also check out our website, theunusualcreative.com.
Perfect. And that's a wrap. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow Yap wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe to the newsletter. We'll see you next time.